Howdy, my name is Dan Wheatbrook, and I am the product manager here at Synoptix. I'd like to welcome you to Synoptix Summit 2021. I'll be reviewing the product roadmap and some of the different aspects of the advanced budgeting and forecasting module that we've been working on. Before I jump into the roadmap, I'd like to welcome Acumatica and Sightline, two new ERPs we have implemented with over the last year. As you know, we have spent the last couple of years working on the advanced budgeting and forecasting module. We're very excited about that, and we'll get to more of that later. Now that that is available for purchase, we will be focusing on the remaining roadmap items. So first and foremost is moving the desktop client software to the browser. We still have a few items that are in the desktop client that we have not moved, namely, and chief among them, is the designer screen. And we have made excellent progress on moving the designer screen from the desktop client and into the browser. Our ultimate destination with Synoptix is the cloud, to be cloud hosted. The other thing that we have started is designing a new GUI, a new look and feel for Synoptix in the browser. And we're pretty excited about this because we have two major goals that we hope to accomplish. One is we really want to focus on reducing the amount of time and effort it takes to get you your information. We want this to be a very quick and easy process. And then the other thing is, with this new redesign, we can tailor the experience to each end user for their specific needs and permissions. Our new GUI design is still in the design phase, and so I won't have anything to show you today. But after we kind of wrap that up, we'll be moving on, doing a few of the setup screens that are left. At that point, we should have everything moved from the desktop client to the browser, and we'll focus on SAML authentication and engine optimizations. Once those items are complete, we will release this as version 10 of Synoptix. I'd like to transition at this point to talking about our budget design process. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about our approach to software design, specifically as it pertains, of course, to the budgeting process, is because we've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours working with industry experts and practitioners to define and design our advanced budgeting and forecasting software. We started from scratch, trying to figure out the job to be done and remain focused on that throughout the process. Our guiding principles have been very important, and this has been actually a very, very fun process. We've had a great time working through the job to be done for budgeting and forecasting, and we have a couple of guiding principles that really guided our design process. Number one is we were looking for a high degree of accuracy. A budgeting process that doesn't deliver a high degree of accuracy can be an exercise in futility. Sometimes it's just not helpful. The benefits of knowing at the beginning of the year what your financial statements will look like at the end of the year are huge. The market rewards dependability. The other principle that guided our design process is flexibility. Flexibility to react to a changing business landscape. The key is being able to react and replan at the rate of change. A budget gives a company the ability to make changes to current plans and effectively communicate and align around those changes. Again, those guiding principles are a high degree of accuracy and flexibility to react to a changing business landscape at a very low cost. Our guiding principles informed our process aims. Reduce the amount of work required by the end user to create a budget. Simplify, communicate, facilitate change, and rapidly deliver. So in focusing on reducing the amount of work required by the end user, we give you more time spent diving deep into data and decisions. A budgeting process that yields high accuracy takes some time to develop. The key to getting accuracy is where you spend your time. That is why we have designed our software to reduce the amount of work required to record and approve the budget. We want you spending your time analyzing and digging deep into your data to get the best results. The next aim was simplify. We spent a lot of time to reduce and eliminate complexity. Design is a very iterative process, and most of the time, our first idea did not turn out to be the implemented idea. We've worked hard to make the process simple so it is not just easy to understand, but easy to execute. And then communication of that budget, the ability to communicate that easily and quickly as a budget manager or the person responsible for the budget, it is essential to know where you are at in the process and the status of each step. To that end, we have created a screen that allows for that. This screen shows the relationships between the templates and how the data flows from one to the other. It also allows for easy access to the templates. This is a navigation screen as well, and shows you who's responsible for each portion of the budget. It allows you to quickly and easily contact them. Just by clicking on the avatar, you can send an email or make a phone call to contact them. And the last thing it shows, of course, is status at a glance. This flows from the top to bottom, and you can see by the little round circle the status of each item in this. So at a glance, this is how the budget manager, the person responsible for the budget, is going to manage this budgeting process. The next aim is facilitating change. When you make a change, we automatically generate new budget numbers for you to compare against your current budget numbers for your approval or for your tweaking and approval. That is communicated through the status as well. So once you make a change, something that was green and formally approved gets a red status, meaning that you ought to look into it and then re-recommend it and make that approval. Our goal and aim of rapidly delivering is kind of key to the focus. We tried to help you spend as little time in the software as possible and spending much more of your time working and digging into your numbers and understanding and asking questions and digging deep. The last thing I wanted to cover is what is it going to look like to implement advanced budgeting and forecasting. First off, need to understand that services will be with you every step of the way to ensure your success. We have a highly experienced services team that will be working with you to help you and support you along this process. We start with the install. We'll work with your IT group to get the server installed and configured for running Apache Tomcat. Tomcat is a web server that hosts and runs the Synoptix software. It has a fairly small footprint and is not real resource intensive, which is nice. Synoptix, of course, creates its own database for storing the budget templates and permissions and all those. It's the same database that we use the same database that we use for the Synoptix reporting software as well. So the budgeting is just a new module for Synoptix reporting. And of course, for that, we support both SQL Server and Postgres. The next part of the install is going to be setting up users with permissions and distributing the URL and the usernames to the end users. So they'll just access this. They'll jump on a browser, enter the URL, enter their username and password, and they will be in the software and able to start on their budgeting. Next, we'll work with the executive team and the person responsible for the budgeting to do initial scoping and planning. At this point, you'll be assigned a budgeting project manager, and we'll establish a main point of contact for the project manager from Synoptix to work with. A couple of things we need to thoroughly understand in order to get going. One are your current budgeting practices. We'll talk about those extensively. and we'll use whatever we can from your current budgeting practices to go forward. We'll also thoroughly work to understand your business practices and needs that pertain to budgeting. The result of the scoping and planning will be the scope of work that's a little more detailed than the initial one, and with deliverables and timelines. After that, the next step is simply to jump in and get started by gathering information. Asking questions like, what do you expect next year to look like? How do you look at your world? How do you measure sales? By sales rep, territory, by part? What do you expect your net income to be? What do you expect your top line revenues to be? And where are you going to maybe save money through your expenses? So all these kinds of business types related questions, we'll need to understand how you see your world, and then we can proceed to step 4, which is building forms and templates. We're going to work individually with the your different departments to modify the templates that come with the software. We will provide industry-specific templates that you can use and modify and tweak those as needed. Or we'll be sitting down and services will create new ones for you that are tailored specifically to your needs. The one thing that I really like about our software, what we designed, is that we designed we built a tool to create the tool. So services can build the templates for you and build them out so that all you have to do is push a few buttons and you won't spend as much time in the software, as you'll be focusing more on gathering the information that you need to create a reliable budget. So after we build the forms and the templates and we get all the setup work done, then it's time to just run and create the initial budget. That'll be a very quick step. We'll move right from there into review and revise. Again, this is when we'll sit down with each of the different departments and say, okay, based on what we learned before, this is the information, and this is a beginning point for looking at and developing your budget. So they'll review those numbers and revise them as necessary, as they're informed by customers, vendors, and all sorts of people to work with, so they can see what next year will look like. Following that step, there's a recommend and approval process. Recommendations are made by the individual departments, and what they determine is their best guess at what's going to happen. And then approval is done at the executive level as they review their financial statements, their budgeted financial statements. Once approved, we'll work on writing reports, because our job as a Synoptix team will not be complete until you have the reports you need to monitor and manage your budgets. That wraps up my portion of the budgeting. And just by way of review, our roadmap is moving our desktop client software to the browser. Just a few setup screens and the designer screen is left to do. Coming out with our new GUI, our new look and feel, to reduce the time and tailor the experience for each user. And then we're going to do SAML authentication and engine optimizations. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate you listening in, and I'll be glad to take questions if you've got them.